All right. Good evening. It is Tuesday, November 26, 5:15 PM. And with a quorum of members present, I'm going to call the Finance Committee to order. We will have a joint session with HR a little bit later in this meeting, and we'll call the HR segment to order when that occurs. So we'll start off with the finance items on our agenda. Item number 1, minutes of the previous meeting. That's from November 12th, 2024. Any questions, comments? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
A motion from Hinkie, second. A second from Tierney. Discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And that carries. Item number 2, a discussion and possible action establishing the water utility tax equivalent. And this is the item that is known as the pilot, the payment in lieu of taxes, and something that we do on an annual basis. If the city were to accept the full pilot payment from the water utility, we could go ahead and do that, but if we were going to accept a reduced amount, we have to draft a resolution accepting a reduced amount of pilot from the utility to the city. And that's what we're going to be doing again this year. I believe it's an amount of $1,590,000, which is the same amount that we had, the same reduced payment amount that we had accepted last year. So any questions on that, or? Alder Tierney?
So what happens if we would reduce that? Because I know that was,
Oh, reduce it further from the 1,590,000?
right, because I know that this was a big public outcry to take a look at that. So I'm just playing devil's advocate here and saying what happens if we would.
So if you reduced it, obviously the budget expects the 1,590,000. So you would have a shortfall in the 2025 revenue budget in the general fund. And as we said, it's not going to make an impact on rates. So from a ratepayer standpoint, I think when we met, our intention then is after the first of the year to engage with Ellers to look at the final numbers of the water utility and see what the rates look like. That presentation, if you recall, based on the formulas that the Public Service Commission looks at right now, our financial advisor thought we would end up with actually a rate increase rather than a decrease if we went in for a rate study, even if we reduced the pilot. But we can have him do an estimate and then at that point decide whether you want to do a rate study. So it wouldn't commit you to submitting the documentation, I guess. And, we did provide the water utility with, significant capital dollars this year, $1 million from the general fund, $800,000 in ARPA dollars for meters, as well as a number of projects with ARPA. But that's certainly something that you can consider. And then, like I say, we would just have a shortfall in the budget. The other thing you could do is make a transfer to the water utility rather than reducing the pilot, which would just bring cash to the water utility. So, for example, once we have our 2024 numbers, and if we had a profit in the general fund and you made a decision that you wanted to contribute $300,000 or a dollar amount to the water utility to help the financial position there, you could do that. I guess the other thing I would mention is, we do have the lead service line. We were not able to close on that loan yet for 2024, and as a result, state law says we can't levy for debt that we don't have. So we were not able to make a provision in the budget for that lead service line debt retirement, which right now cannot be funded by the water utility. So we're going to have to fund that within basically general operations. So we, like my recommendation would be to stay where we are with the 1,590,000, which is included in the budget, and revisit either a transfer after we know what the lead service line replacement program is going to cost, because we'll most likely have to do a transfer to fund that initial debt payment in 2025, because like I said, we weren't allowed to budget for it because the loan wasn't settled.
Yeah. Well, Alder Henke?
Thanks. In the end, be it further resolved, it says future tax equivalent will revert to the methodology established by Wisconsin Code
Yep.
PSC. What is that?
So that's based on a calculation of your assets times the tax rate. So I think last year when I calculated that, it was about $1.7 million. So we are reducing the pilot, and, you know, it may be more now because we have more capital assets because of the GAC system, because of finishing the water plant. So it likely would go up.
Did it also say that last year?
Yes.
Okay.
So-
So that's just always on there?
Right.
Okay.
I mean, you could, if you wanted to change that, the other option would be it further resolved that it remains at that rate indefinitely or for the next 5 years or some other stipulation, but this is basically causing us to bring back a resolution every year if we want to make that concession.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's good to bring this back every
Yeah.
year because that forces us to discuss it.
Yep, very
If we're
transparent
not,
that way.
yeah, no, if we're not going to do anything with it. So, yeah, and just, yeah, and you brought up a good point, Marianne, about the 1.8 million that the city transferred to the utility this past year in both ARPA and general funds in order to purchase those new water meters. So with that, and I think with the GAC system coming online, we should see in the next year the utility having a more stable footing, I would believe, and the continued discussion on this pilot payment, you know, with the commission, finance committee, and also Ehlers will definitely we'll be looking forward to that in this coming year to see where we're at, because this is it's still kind of a moving target until everything is put online. So, any other discussion? All-
The meeting in August, that was really no resolve with regard to, because last year the city council directed that there should be a joint meeting of the water commission, which happened this August, but there was really no resolve for that. So, and should this have come before finance, before the budget, so that if there would have been any, I mean, now the budget is set, we're pretty much, you know, in tow, because if we monkey with the budget at this time, it gets complicated. But shouldn't this have come before the committee prior to the budget? Because then if there would have been any adjustments, that would have been reflected in the budget. I guess we're pretty much set to pass on the pilot program, but I think there was certainly enough discussions last year and throughout the year with regard to how we're going to be dealing with that. Now I think we're just pretty much having to go with it because the budget was already passed. So I think that we should be more careful next year with regard to how this proceeds. Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree. We definitely need to keep this item, you know, forward in our thoughts during the budget process. I do know that when we had that meeting in August, things were, the situation was a little more tenuous on if we would be able to eliminate the pilot payment or not. And I think those numbers that Ehlers gave us told us that that probably was not going to be the case at this point in time.
I think, you know, we definitely discussed in the presentation that the, you know, pilot was the 1,590,000 that was included in the budget. Also with the mayor wanting us to keep our levy at a 2.5% increase, I mean, that also puts pressure on the budget, because if we had removed 100,000 out of the budget or whatever number you had wanted to reduce it by, I mean, we would have had to then find another 100,000 someplace else. And with, you know, the union contracts, with all of the other obligations that we have, with the problems that we're having with motor pool funding, it just seemed like there wasn't a lot of wiggle room there in the general fund to try to solve another $100,000 or whatever number problem. But again, like I said, you can still accomplish money going to the water utility if that's the desire. And again, the city general operations is picking up a big commitment through the lead service line replacement. And I think that's, you know, an important priority that we're having to fund as well.
Okay. Any other discussion? I'm not hearing anything. I'd entertain a motion. Or Alder Henke?
Yeah, I'll move.
Okay, motion from Henke. A second. There's a second on that?
I'll second it to bring it,
Oh,
I question, just so that the public knows that I'm questioning. I will second it, but that, a serious question, this move, I thought we would be in a better position to be dealing with it this year than what we are. But I wish we would, like I said, I wish we would have been in a better position this year to do something with regard to that. But as explained, we're pretty much under a budget crunch, so be it.
yep, and I agree with you. I share those same sentiments. So we got a motion that's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. That goes 3-2 with, I think it was McElhaney and Tierney, the no votes. So, okay, that carries. And I think we'll see this on council this evening.
Oh, I think is it the 10th? I think it's set for the 10th.
Oh, is it
Yeah.
set for the 10th? Okay, excuse me. Nope, December 10th. On item number 3, discussion and possible action on ARPA funding for motor pool rolling stock. And in our packet, there was quite a list of equipment that we could put ARPA funding towards. As Mary Ann, you said that, you know, we would want to over encumber ourselves before the end of the year in case, you know, so while we're still in that expenditure period, in case we don't
Exactly.
spend everything down before the deadline. So Eric, you got anything to add on this?
Yeah, I think, working with Dustin and Solomon, we tried to put together some priorities for some motor pool that we'd like you to approve, as ARPA funding becomes available, things that we could obligate the funding for before the end of the month, and we tried to put them in a priority order. So as funding's available, we would just go down that list and purchase those to help out the motor pool and also get some antiquated equipment replaced.
Are these things that are in the schedule to be replaced through motor pool, or?
Yeah, I think the only thing that we would be adding would be that articulating mower, but that's actually a recommendation from CIVMIC because some of our steep slopes around detention ponds, things like that, off of roads and those types of things. So that will actually take some place of some other mowing and stuff equipment, but that'll be a new piece of equipment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions, discussion? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion. Okay, a motion from Gisselman, a second.
I'll second.
Second from Hinkie. Anything else? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then we'll add that to our ARPA list for potential spend down for the next 2 years. Item number 4, discussion and possible action on production agreement between Marathon County and the city of Wausau. And this is related to our public access system. The city's public access records the meetings for the county, and there's a cost-sharing agreement and it looks like there'll be a slight increase for 2026, but we'll use the same rate for 2025, so. Okay, motion from Gisselman, second from Tierney. Discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that carries. So that was quick. Thank you. Item number 5, discussion and possible action on sale of Wausau Fire Department Ladder 2 and potential replacement purchase. And we've got some information here in the packet from Chief, and Chief Kopp is here this evening, and he can tell us more about this, the sale of this, of the ladder.
This is, a discussion I'd like to have in regards to the fact that in order to keep providing the high-level service that we provide to our community every day, this is a piece of equipment that our entire department has lost trust and faith in and really do not want to use it at all, right up to the chief. This is a somewhat fortunate time to sell a truck because I've been speaking with Brindley today. We could have it listed as early as tomorrow afternoon, and the suggestion is to list it at $1.1 million. That's more than we paid for it a few years back. And that would give us the opportunity, if we were able to move forward and sell this apparatus, we'd be able to start looking for either a demo equipment or a nice used ladder truck to replace it, to keep the cost somewhere near what we get for this one. So I'm being very cautious in that regard because, new trucks are not cheap. But we definitely feel that it would help the city and help our department move forward, being able to sell this truck and replace it with something else.
Okay, I think Alderman McElhaney?
I read over this memo a couple of times, and it said that, I'm trying to use your specific wording. The ongoing legal matters associated with Ladder 2 have created operational and liability concerns. So it seems weird to me that we're going to sell something that has liability and operations concerns. Are we sure that we're selling? Why are we trying to sell something that you said you don't even have faith in? Is that putting the city at any type of risk?
So I've been in discussions with legal, as well as Mary Ann and the mayor on these things, and I've talked with the company that's selling it. The litigation, could take years on this. It's one of those things that might never even be resolved as to what caused the accident, whether it was operator error, whether it was, a truck malfunction, whether it was a Bluetooth malfunction. There was plenty of investigation. The truck had been quarantined for many months while these things went on, and there's just no guarantee that we'll ever have an answer. So it's just opinions at this point as to what caused it, and the fact that our department doesn't trust it and don't feel safe with it is the biggest challenge for me as the chief moving forward and wanting to be able to have a piece of equipment that we can use and trust.
But it says there's a legal matter associated and its liability concerns. I question what are we telling the people that are going to buy this? I don't know. It just seems weird to me that we are saying that we believe that this has operational and liability concerns. Please buy this. I don't know. That's why I'm asking, is this normal? That when somebody has liability concerns and that this maybe has some kind of a hazard, that they sell that?
Sure, and it's not any of our intent to hide anything, and full disclosure will always prevail in honesty. I think, we've gone to many measures as far as going back to Sudfin and having, working together with them and them being able to sign over all warranties to the new buyer. And that's not something that's normally done, and that is what gets the resale costs back up there. So to have that warranty and to have their stamp of approval behind their own equipment is what it would come down to when someone purchases it. We'll tell them exactly what happened. There'll be no hidden agendas or anything like that. It's just an internal issue for us at this point.
Alder Cheney?
I'm concurring with Alder McElhaney. I don't understand how we can sell a piece of equipment and say, you know, here's all the warranty information and here's everything, and it's telling you that this truck is sound. We don't want it. We don't want to put our men on it, and our men don't want to go on it, but it's okay for you. I think we are really opening ourselves up for something there because, as she said, ongoing legal and liability issues, nobody in our department wants to be on it, but yet we're willing to sell it to somebody else. That just, it just does not have, it doesn't feel right at all.
Sure, and, you know, part of that also is not wanting to be on it, not knowing what happened as far as what caused it, the accident, but in the same token of the, you know, the traumatic response and traumatic responses that we got from our members that were there as far as what they saw, and to deal with watching one of your own go through something like that is very traumatic. And, you know, it's always going to be associated with that truck, where another department might not have that same association. You know, they'll know exactly what happened to us, but it doesn't mean that they'd have the same trust issues that we would have, just because we saw it, we lived it, and we were there for it. And it was a very trying moment for our department for a few months, and to have one of our members, you know, go through that was very traumatic also. So it's a lot about internal trauma compared to another department that doesn't have that same experience.
And I understand what you're saying, but let's say that this was a new truck that we'd had for 6 months, and there was an equipment malfunction, and we just paid a couple $1 million for this truck. There was an equipment malfunction, and one of your firefighters got hurt, unfortunately. Would that mean you'd want to turn around and sell that truck as well because of the traumatic experience it caused the people who were there?
I guess that would depend on the circumstances around it. I mean, if, you know, firefighters are at risk every day. They know that they have risks on everything they do, and if it was something along the lines of operator issue or individual issue and where they got hurt, that's plenty of different ways to handle that. But to have something that we just don't know what caused it, and it wasn't, you know, something that we'll ever have an answer to possibly.
Right, but that could happen with another piece of equipment. And that's what I'm saying, is if we got a new, brand spanking new, shiny ladder truck, and there was an equipment malfunction, and unfortunately, it caused a big injury. We could not go out and sell that brand-new piece of equipment because it was causing some traumatic feelings towards that equipment from the crew that was there. It's just not feasible that we could do that every time something happened. It's like saying, one of the police officers said, I got in a car accident and I got hurt bad in that patrol car, and I'm not going to get back into that patrol car even though it's been fixed. Nothing's wrong with it. We can't find anything wrong mechanically that could have caused this.
Sure, and I think that's a training thing. That's why whenever we get a new piece of apparatus, we spend many hours training and making sure that we have everything that we need to know down with whatever apparatus or whatever tool we're talking about when we buy something new before we put it in service. And I would think that we would do that with any other vehicle that we have coming, just like we did with this one. But there's just no way to train for something that happened in this situation that we can try to eliminate because we don't know. And I don't think that's a common thing in the fire service to have this sort of issue where you would see it multiple times.
Right. I guess my concern is that we could spend a lot of money on another truck, something could go wrong, we're not going to buy a new piece of equipment. After that, we can't. So I guess a lot of it would be, you know, what are you looking for? How much more money is this going to cost the city? This certainly isn't in a budget anywhere.
No, and I understand that.
And we just ended this budget. I mean, we just sealed the deal on this. This ladder truck is no surprise. This has been going on, and it seems like the timing is quite bad that right after we got done with this budget, there's going to be an ask of a lot of money.
Well, there's
That's
been
not budgeted
a long
for.
process. It's not something I could have brought any sooner. I want to make that clear, just because of, certain aspects like the warranties and the different things that I've had to do to get to this point. And then it's another thing to say that I'm not up here telling you that I want to spend a whole bunch more money on a brand-new truck. We're going to be looking for something to replace it that's used or cost-efficient in the same realm of what we're getting for this one.
I have one more question.
Yep. Alderman McElhaney?
When did we get this truck? Because I think I remember it.
I just had that too. It's got to be 3 years ago.
I think it was in 23, 22, 23. I think we placed the order, I
22.
remember, around 21,
Yep.
2021, and so
And I'll go look that up.
yeah, it hasn't been in service very long.
No,
That's another story altogether.
as far as,
That's bothersome to me, that we have a truck that we haven't had but more than 2 or 3 years and we want to replace it.
which is bothersome to me too. That's why I'm here asking.
Yeah,
I mean, to have something like this that we shouldn't have these sort of issues with, we do, and, this isn't something that's very common. I don't like it as much as anybody, but it's, I got to deal with the cards that are dealt, and what I'm trying to do is make sure our department moves forward without any hiccups, and we keep providing the services that we provide, and in order to do that, we need the equipment and the apparatus necessary to do so.
I have some very big reservations about this. Just putting that out there too, for a piece of equipment that's costly, that we've had for that little amount of time on a budget that has just been completed to do a budget modification. I have big reservations about this. Thank you.
Chief, if there's, if we hold on to this piece of equipment, and if there's a stated trust issue with it, would we run the risk of it just staying dormant at the station? Nobody's going to want to use it or respond with it?
I mean, wanting to and having to are two different things. We'd probably have to change some protocols, change some procedures, and maybe not even use the truck to its full capabilities based on some of the things that we've learned to this point and some of the concerns that we might have that we won't know for years of whether we're right or wrong as far as, was it Bluetooth, was it, hydraulics, was it, I mean, all the listed issues that it could have been that there's no answers to yet. So in order to alleviate some of those things, we would be using a truck that we probably wouldn't be using to its full capability. I could say that much.
It'd be like a ladder truck and not using the ladder at all, I would imagine.
I mean,
Yeah. Any other, Alder Gisselman?
So it's currently under litigation. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
and I know this is confidential and I know this is a legal matter, but, and I don't know where the sides are, has this come before a standing committee of the city council?
no, it's on the next agenda.
No, I mean the issue of the number 2, the accident, the litigation, the legal, the pursuing of whatever legal issues there are. Do we, evidently, some litigation is going on. I'm sure the legal department knows, but do we know what this is all about? Because I would be hesitant if it's a legal issue to go ahead and get rid of it and yet have it under somebody else's ownership, but while we are still in legal battles with this. I think if it sits in a garage somewhere, so be it. But I think that I need to know. Personally, I don't need to know. I think somebody needs to know with regard to where we are with this. I think this is a larger issue. I don't want to put the city of Wausau's name on an engine that we're going to sell that is currently in some type of legal issue. I
I guess I
just
can't speak
can't.
to that other than the fact that the all attorneys that are involved came to the agreement to let me know that you're the chief, it's your truck, do what you want with it at this point, because they don't need it quarantined or anything else anymore. So it's really just about, I mean, I don't know I'd have to get a legal opinion on that too, but that's all I could tell you
Well,
about what the
there has
attorney
to be
told me.
some, I would think there would have to be some resolve somewhere. I question this also. Thank you.
Alder Henke?
Thank you. How long do you think it would be if we did sell this, that we would be without a truck?
Without a truck?
Yeah, or without this truck? And what's
Before
it-
we had a replacement, you're saying?
Yeah,
But, I mean,
if everything went smoothly.
yeah, I've been out there looking a little bit, and there's demos that are available, in short distances, 6 months to a year. If they, depending on the pricing, and then there's also the used stuff that's out there that, much like this truck, on the same site, a broker, where you could go buy something and have it as soon as a month or two.
Is there a way that we could get more concrete numbers on sell and purchase price?
I've been looking at them, and it really depends on what year you go with and how old of a truck you go with. If we do get more than $1.1 million, that opens up a little bit of a page where you can get something newer, something even close to the same age as that truck for that price. Just a little different style, whether it's a 70-foot, 75-foot, 100-foot ladder truck. We need a shorter wheelbase, which is some things that we need just because they respond with ambulances on a daily basis. So, there's some things that we need, but there's definitely some things that we know we might have to do without that we spec'd on this truck, so.
Could you bring us more concrete numbers if we waited a month or so on this decision?
As far as purchasing something else?
Yeah, purchase and then,
Maybe. I haven't done a whole lot of looking into that because I was kind of thinking I would have to get permission to sell first, but that's definitely something I could try to.
I think it would help, on the financial side at least, it would help with a lot of those concerns. I also have concerns about the ongoing litigation, and I don't know if this is something we can even discuss in like a closed session, and maybe not us, but, public health and safety, if we can even talk about it at a meeting
with
and see
the
where we
attorney.
stand. Yeah. Just
Sure.
a thought. I see it's agendized as just kind of starting the discussion, so.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think that might not be a bad idea if we can maybe get, either, finance and maybe certainly public health and safety, get a more, a better legal briefing on the liability litigation aspects of this. I think that would, I have a feeling the body would feel a lot more comfortable with the sale of the truck if we knew about that.
Can do that, get some pricing.
Yeah.
I can speak with Attorney Jacobson tomorrow.
Do you want a motion or need a motion to send it to public health and safety or a joint or just do it by consensus?
Do we just send this back for that other, for some additional information? I don't know if we need a motion necessarily, and then
Don't take action on it? and
don't
just-
take action and let public health and safety have a crack at it too?
Sure.
Is that amenable to everybody? I think that'll allay some questions, so, okay. We'll do that.
Thank you.
So we'll- Yep, thanks for bringing this this evening, Chief. Really appreciate it. So, yep. Item number 6, discussion and possible action approving and amendment and related budget modifications to the Riverside Rail Corridor remediation and testing report. And we've got Eric back up here again. This has to do with soil testing in, I believe, Riverside Park, so.
Correct, yeah. So when they went in and did the soil removals on the last time earlier this year, they had to take some confirmation sampling, and they still found some residuals that were above standard. So Rather than coming back at that time, they took additional samples to determine the extent of the soil determination. So then they wrote the report back to the DNR currently that they found where the extents are. And so, but there's still soil that has to be removed based on those confirmation samples from earlier this year. So this would be the cost for the professional services, the engineering part of it, for REI to complete that, but we have to bid out the actual work. So I don't have cost for that bid, so that'll have to come back for another budget modification. But this will allow us to get specifications put together, get that construction work bid and move forward so we can complete that in the spring. Yep.
So this is for additional services for additional testing and not a cost overrun?
Yeah, and oversight on the work that's going to be removed and some reporting to the DNR. Yes.
Okay. Okay, now a motion from Gisselman. I need a second. Okay, second from McElhaney, and go ahead.
Sorry, I think this budget mod, is this coming, I guess I'm seeing it's coming out of the environmental fund, right? So that's not part of, is that our contamination fund, Marianne? Okay,
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
That's the fund that was established by the Holt Krause landfill.
Yes.
Alder Hinkie.
Is the DNR requiring us to continue remediation of this?
Yes, they
Okay,
are.
okay.
Yep. Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And that carries. Thank
Thank you.
you. Item number 7, discussion and possible action authorizing the issuance of and sale of up to $4,520,256 sewer system revenue bonds, Series 2024, and providing for other details and covenants with respect thereto. Okay, and these are, I think this comes up every year, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to pull up it in the packet. I don't know, so Mary Ann, if you want to give us a little bit of update on these bonds, so. Oh, we got Eric again, okay.
Yeah. So these are the Clean Water Fund loans where we
Okay.
had received loans and principal forgiveness for some of our projects like Stewart Avenue Force Main Project. There's 3 of them, 3 projects that we put together, Eau Claire Boulevard Sewer. The last one's escaping me, but
The headwaters.
thank you, the Headworks project, yeah, at the wastewater treatment plant. So rather than, just borrowing generally for water and sewer, we're actually able to receive principal forgiveness to lower that plus a subsidized rate through the DNR. So, and by consolidating all these loans into one, we were also able to save quite a few thousands of dollars on bond counsel for closing these loans at the same time, so.
All right. Any questions?
And that's on tonight's agenda for council.
Okay.
Correct, thanks, Mary Ann. Yeah.
Thank you. Questions on that? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion. Alder Tierney, motion from Tierney. A second.
I'll second.
Second from Hinkie. Anything else? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that carries. Thank you.
Thanks.
Item number 8, discussion and possible action regarding accepting the 2025 Beat Patrol Grant. And this is something that keeps coming up too.
Yep.
This is, we got the chief here that can give us some additional information, but this is a grant we received from the state for 2 additional officers, so.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to receive this grant. We have historically for several years. The finances of it are basically buy one, get one. We receive enough funding to fund 1 police officer, and the city funds the 2nd police officer. And we qualify for this because statistically with our crime rate, as you look at the entire state, there's 10 police departments that are given access to these funds. So this is the exact same grant that we were offered last year.
And it's in the budget.
Yeah.
for-
So
Elder Tierney.
Okay, so this would be hiring, 'cause I haven't been here for this in the past, so I need a little clarification. So this would allow us to hire another 2
No,
police
it
officers?
would prevent me from firing two. So they
okay,
already
okay.
exist, they're on our staff, they've been funded for several years. The grants
Gotcha.
continued at the same funding levels, so this doesn't require us to make any adjustments.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's a continuing grant. Yes, thank you.
Correct.
All right. Okay, motion from Gisselman?
So does that mean that we have a high crime rate?
Yes.
Consider, how high a crime rate do we have?
I would say we have a consistent crime rate with the rest of the state. One of the things we're very good at, because we recognize a value in it, is our reporting of our crimes. We have clerical staff that is their full-time job. It takes time of every single officer on every single call to correctly code what they're going to report to the FBI, which then gets provided to the state, and it's used to allocate grant funds. So any crime is a high crime rate. We have crime in this community. When I look at other cities throughout the state and the issues that their departments are dealing with, they're consistent with the same issues we're dealing with at similar rates. But we've always accurately reported our data, and as a result of that, I think that's what consistently puts us in the running for these grants.
Does this mean that an officer walks the beat?
We have officers walk the beat on a regular basis. But no, that kind of went away slightly before I started in the mid-'90s. But I would tell you that we have 2 officers that walk the beat every day. They're your downtown officers that focus on the unhoused population and the challenges downtown. And I think they understood something 100 years ago, because it's highly effective to build relationships with your neighbors and be out and about. So we encourage our officers to walk the beat as often as possible.
So is our crime rate being, I know this is more of an issue for public health and safety, but is our crime rate being reduced because of the officers that we enlist?
Yeah, I mean, I could give you a political answer, but the reality of the situation is I think we have a pretty stable crime rate in this community. It's not skyrocketing. It's not dropping off dramatically. And what I think those officers allow us to do is have a presence, and we have a very good clearance rate here. So our officers do a great job of investigating crime and holding people accountable. From a prevention standpoint, I can't sit here and tell you that these 2 officers and this extra staff and the work that they get to do is recognized by that population of our community and says, hey, maybe we need to go somewhere else. However, I can tell you that we have allocated resources to the apprehension of drug dealers in our community. We apply lots of officer time to that. And as a result of that, when they're doing undercover drug type stuff and trying to set up the deals, we often have drug dealers that say, I'll sell you the methamphetamine, except we're doing it, and they name a neighboring community because they're well aware that those communities don't put the same resources forward. So I'm not sure that answers your question. I don't know that I can.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much.
Okay. All right. And I guess I was mistaken. So do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move, yeah, I'll move to, or second it.
Okay, motion from Gisselman, second from Hinkie. Any other discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that carries. Thank you. Number 9, discussion and possible action approving resolution declaring official intent to reimburse expenditures from the Safe Drinking Water Revolving Loan Program for BIL SFY 25 LSL Program Year 2025. And we've got Eric back again to.
Yeah, I put some slides in the packet for you to see and kind of go over. Anytime that we look at DNR funding from Safe Drinking Water, Clean Water Fund loan, we ask for a reimbursement resolution from the city council. And that allows us to start work. And then all of those expenses are going to be reimbursed through that loan or grant that we get, or principal forgiveness loan. looking at how the lead service line project went this year, it went quite well. We're doing over 600 lead service line replacements. When the city was doing it on our own, we were doing somewhere on an average of about 70 to 80 a year, just because they're resource intensive. When you look at the second slide in your packet, it kind of shows what the public-private partnership structure is in a simple form compared to how we typically do projects with a municipality, right? And a standard contract construction is where the city, performs all of the contracting, all of the responsibility, the management, all of those things. So it's all of our resources, contract, and that we solicit for. With the structure that we're doing for lead service lines, because it is extremely resource intensive, is we just have one agreement with Community Infrastructure Partners at this point in time. And they bring all the resources to the table through contracts for us to fill those gaps and the needs, right? And they do it all on a fixed price. So all of those costs are established up front, what we're going to pay them, which is a huge advantage for the city, because we don't know always what complications we're going to get into with every house. And next year, we're proposing to do 1,800 service lines. That's basically 1,800 different projects that we're doing, and those are the resources that we need to bring to the table the city just doesn't have. This structure has done very well for this type of project for us because we're working on private property and private homes, and each one of those service lines is its own project. Having the fixed prices, you know exactly what those prices are moving forward. If we can do more service lines, it doesn't add to the cost for us. The construction is, but none of the professional services are added to cost. It's all the same. So, and also they take on a lot of the risk and liability. They guarantee us that this is what they're going to replace. If they don't meet that, then they don't get paid for that. So they take on that risk. And so they have large incentives, to complete that work and to do it well. The city still administers that with the agreement we oversee. If you look at the third slide, you'll kind of see the public-private partnership and some of the responsibilities, right? So the city still has stake in this. Every one of my divisions, all 6 divisions, are involved in this project. Everything from inspections to engineering to streets division, water, sewer, all of them. We still all have a stake in it. We're all out there doing oversight and in helping to manage this project, but the resources that CIP brings to this allows us to do that, those 1,800 service lines. And along with that, it allows us to get the funding that we would not otherwise be able to get. If you look at the funding that's been allocated to us for 2025, 8.8 million in principal forgiveness and 6.1 in loans. That's 60% principal forgiveness. That's 100% coverage on the private side and over $1 million coverage on the public side. So there's a $6.1 million loan that the city will be committing to for 2025 in order to get that principal forgiveness. And there's various ways for funding that debt as well, for that payback that the city. A lot of these areas are covered by the TID, general obligation, and then also a continued review of water revenue and what sort of debt service it can take on as well. So.
All right. Any questions? Alder Henke?
Would we be able to use any of this money for public side, like street main replacements yet? Or is that?
Not main replacements, but our service lines, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going to the mains?
Yes.
Is it a little bit between there? Okay.
Yeah. So we did get just over $1 million in principal forgiveness for that. We did not expect that. So that's a big advantage for the utility as well. Yeah, in the city.
Okay.
So, and I think as we move forward, there's a lot of other communities that are stepping into this. So we did very well this year. I don't know if we're going to do as well next year, but getting in early has really been a huge advantage for us.
I'll just say that we had ours replaced and sidewalk took a little longer to get replaced
Yeah.
than I would have liked, but I understood it took time, but otherwise everything was great. And I know 2 or 3 of my friends are already getting signed up for next year and
Great.
and looking forward to this, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that. I know our area, our neighborhood's eligible for next year, so I'm going to get on that list too. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion. Question, Alderman McElhaney?
Marianne, okay, so we have loan yet this year that we
Yes,
need to settle,
That
correct?
we haven't closed yet. Yes,
Yep.
that's
And
correct.
that's how much, 2 point something, right?
Yep.
Okay. 2 point something, and now, this 6.1, how are we going to get that loan? Or pay for it?
So there is no formal financial plan, as Eric mentioned. If we did some project plan amendments, you might be able to allocate some of these costs to the TID districts. The water utility could pay because it's it's our side
Public.
that
Yes.
would be funded, not the homeowner's side. And then you could use geo debt, which would then have to be repaid from future property taxes.
Alder Hickey?
What's the interest rate on this stuff again?
0.25%. It's 1/4 of 1%.
Free money.
But if we have to get general obligation debt, what does that look like?
It still would be funded by the state. It would just
Right.
be paid for.
By the levy.
By the levy, yes. So there's no different financing mechanism. They just consider it that.
I mean, we just went through a budget process that we all went through, a cheese grater. Where do you think, this is what, 6, 7, 8 million?
Yes.
8+ million, that's not a tiny amount.
Right.
And I'm just worried about, because you were gloomies coming,
Yeah.
And so I think these are good projects, but it's also really pricey, and are we going to be able to afford it?
I think one of the things too, you have to understand, this is by regulation. So we do it now, or you're going to have to commit later when there's not this principal forgiveness funding, which is going to cost us more. Yeah.
Alder Tierney?
My concern is that, again, the levy that comes out of property taxes, and there's a lot of people that are going to get stung this year because of the reassessment. So it concerns me going into a budget next year, adding that kind of debt onto the levy that the taxpayers are going to end up having to shoulder again.
So.
So
the
I think what we're looking at is, we know what the loan is, right? That's coming from the DNR, right? So that's where that obligation is, but it's just a matter of budgeting the annual payments, right, Mary Ann?
Yes.
For what
And really,
that
the
debt is.
resolution before you is really just a reimbursement resolution.
Correct.
Obviously, we want to get this taken care of sooner versus later.
Right.
But yes, so, our thought was of bringing forth to the council through committees, looking at using the TIDs. We also have the TID 7 closure that we'll be considering. And so we would be able to use the 1-year extension if you elected to pay for the lead service line as well. So that would be another funding option. Unfortunately, these are costs that exist, so.
Right.
And this would be a 20-year issue.
Yes.
Which would also, at 0.25%, which is, you just don't see those kinds of rates for a 20-year in particular. So I
Right.
think, there is, I guess, a component that makes it more affordable, as Eric pointed out, than if we wait until it's mandated.
All right. Any other questions? Alder Gisselman?
Well, the grueling budget process this year, and with regard to so in our future, we may have to close swimming pools. We may have to close Sylvan Hills. We may have to go to those because if the restraints on the budget, I mean, the money's going to have to come from somewhere, just so that at this point in time, we know that we're moving on lead lines. I get that. I know, we want this to happen, but, I mean, what is it going to be for '26? It's going to be even more. And I question how the city is really going to maneuver that, but the motion is in front of us, so maybe this takes a larger discussion somewhere else with regard to how the city moves forward, because it isn't just this year, it's 25, 26. We have a lot of lines to take care of, and what is this going to mean to budgets, and what effects does that mean for the city into the future? And I think this city council has to deal with that. Thank you.
Alder Hinkie?
If we don't do it now, I think of, on the counterpoint, that I think of 2030, 2035, when we have to do this and we don't get the principal forgiveness, it's going to cost twice as much then. I mean, you're just kicking it down the road, really. And we have an opportunity to take care of it now at basically free money. I mean, 0.2% is ridiculous. Thank you.
Federal laws, EPA, I mean, we really don't know what the future of that is going to be. To go, there may not be an EPA next year. We don't know. But I still think it's something the city should be thinking about into the future. Thank you.
Yep, Alder Hinkie?
Even if there isn't an EPA, we don't want our people drinking lead in their water, regardless of if we're mandated to do it or not. I'm a big proponent of this, so. Thank you.
I think, to your point, if, regardless of the status of the EPA is in the coming administrations, we do need to look at this now, because this is what we're dealing with now, and it's going to be, yeah, I totally agree. We do want to get the lead out of our drinking water. We have an opportunity where we could do it at a very cost-effective manner, and I think we need to tackle the matter of at the table now with what we can do now, and then we just take it year by year as regulations may be adjusted. Alder Tierney.
I agree that we need to get the lead out of our water, but I also think that in the meantime, we need to look at creative ways to work on some of this debt, because, again, as Gary said, then we start losing other things. I mean, other things that make Wausau what it is. And, we might have to look at, does the city shoulder this entire burden? Because there are other financing options we are going to have to look at as this continues to pile up on the shoulders of the taxpayers. There's going to be a lot of other services that we're going to have to look at either not doing or more budget cuts, not just, coming in at 2.5% lower, but coming in at 5% lower or more. Because we can't have our cake and eat it too. We can't continue to drive all this debt up. I agree, 0.25% interest is amazing, but the fact remains that the debt that is continuing to be put on the taxpayers and those that aren't having this done and are not reaping the benefit of this are paying for it too. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that we have to look at creative ways of financing some of this so that we don't continue to pile debt up on the shoulders of our citizens.
Alderman McElhaney?
The only other thing I think we need to watch is, Eric had said that more people are going into this program and that our, 2026 may not look as favorable. What do we tell those residents that don't get that free service in 2026? If their tract isn't in here, that's my concern. Because you're the lucky ones, you're not. I think there's going to be a real big backlash when we say we can't do this anymore. So that's my only fear. I agree we need to get, and help get the lead out, but it will come a time, and it may be in 26, when it can't be completely free. And that is my concern of how do we present that, and do we start presenting that now? Because what has been presented up to this point, that residents that call me and taxpayers, is that it's all free. It'll always be free. Everything's free with the lead service replacement. So that's what worries me. If you're not a lucky person in 25, you get to pay. I have a feeling there's going to be some retribution.
Alder Henke?
We would still do lead removals, just not at this rate. We would go back to the old system, correct?
Right, yeah. So
If we discontinue the funding?
Yeah, and so right now, the census tracts that we're in, right, they're based on, LMI areas, right? So the DNR is scoring these based on the census tracts they're in. And so they're granting the 100% principal forgiveness on the private side. There are other census tracts in the city that will not receive 100% from the DNR, even if it's available, right? Those census tracts might only see 50% of principal forgiveness, right? So right now, we're working in the heart of the city, right? And where we have the most lead service lines to replace. And those just happen to be the more disadvantaged areas and the LMI areas in those census tracts. So, and we've been focused on that to maximize the principal forgiveness that we can get before it runs out with the state and before it becomes more competitive. So.
All right.
One more question.
Yeah.
But if we do that and go down to the 500, how do we match the EPA's mandate? I mean, if we're going to say we're going to keep this going, at least on the private side, well, there's 100%, but if there's not that money there, we're going to go back to whatever we had. I don't know, whatever DNR gave us, that's what we used. How are we going to meet the mandate then?
We have a 10-year mandate right now. So rather than replacing them all, right? If you choose to change how we're doing this now, rather than, because our goal was to replace all these within 5 years, right? So then we would, at this point then, let's say in 26 you decided not to do this, then we would go back to a 9 or 10 year, right? And we would get a lot less money, obviously, because we wouldn't be able to provide those resources directly from the city. So, and then we'd have to extend that out, that turnover time.
All right, anything else? Okay. All right, we are pushing up against council, so we do need to do something with this.
I'll move to approve it.
Okay, a motion from Hinkie. Second, second from Tierney. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Item number 10, discussion and possible action authorizing the issuance of a purchase order to CCITC to obligate ARPA ERP fund for the completion of the ERP project, including HR, payroll, accounting, accounts receivable, accounts payable, cashiering, asset management, reporting, banking, debt management, budgeting, forecasting, depreciation, and budget reporting, and authorizing CCITC to enter into any agreements for service, including subscription service, to further the ERP project implementation. And this is another item, it comes from the finance department.
Yep.
In order to encumber our ARPA
Yes.
allocation, so we can spend down as much as we can.
Exactly. So this is a work in process. The contracts historically have been, if it benefits both the city and the county, CCITC enters into the contract with the software, because most of our software now is software as a service. So it's a service agreement. And so CCITC enters into the agreement and obligates the funds. The city does not. If it's a city-only agreement, then the city would generally enter into the agreement. If it's a county, the county would. So we are in process of that implementation. I'd outlined some of the things that we have not completed yet. Some of those would be typically what I would say are joint projects. For example, one of the needs that the city has that the county does not have is budget reporting. They have a full-time employee that's been doing their budget reports for them. So while the city implemented budget reporting this year, the county did not. We also have kind of a change on the county side where I guess I would say that the county is not as far along on implementation as we are, so they're not as ready to take next steps as the city is. And so, for example, the city right now is in the middle of doing some continuity planning with ADP on W-2s and payroll. The county was not ready for that yet, so that is an agreement that the city was only going to sign. So we're concerned that we're so close to year end. We have these monies left. The way to obligate these in discussions with our auditors would be to sign a purchase order with CCITC, which would obligate the funds so we could complete these projects and give them the authority to enter into some of these contracts on behalf of the city if it was a city-only expense. Otherwise, we would basically lose the funds by year end, but we would still have these projects that were part of the original project umbrella, and we would still have the needs.
Okay. A motion from Gisselman. Second. Second from Henke. Any other discussion? All right, that's hearing anything. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that carries. Okay, and then we do have a closed session item that we do need to get through because this item's on the council agenda. So Alderman McElhaney, do you want to call the HR committee to order?
Yes, it is November 26th at 6:25, and I'm calling the special HR committee to order with a quorum of members in the chamber.
Okay, and with the HR committee joining us, we do have one item for closed session. Does somebody from finance wish to read the closed session agenda item? Alder Henke?
I move we go to closed session pursuant to section 19.85 sub 1 sub B of the Wisconsin state statutes for deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session for the purpose of discussing the tentative bargaining agreements with the Wausau Professional Police Association and the Wausau Firefighter Association Local 415, AIFF, AFL, CIO, and CLC.
Okay, do I have a second? Second from Alder Tierney. This requires a roll call vote. Tierney? Henke?
Aye.
McElhaney? Gisselman? And I vote aye as well. And HR, do you want to?
Yeah, can we, nobody needs to read it, if we just could have an motion to accept that closed session?
I'll make that motion.
Oh, thank you. Motion by Martin, second by Gisselman. Roll call vote, Tierney? Martins?
Aye.
Gisselman? And I'm aye as well. We are in closed session.
Okay. And we will be back in a moment.
today. Yeah.
And Finance will reconvene into open session.
2 seconds.
So,
HR is also in open session.
do we have a motion for the, to accept the Wausau Professional Police Association contract?
So moved.
Okay, a motion from Hinkie. Second from Tierney. Any discussion? Not hearing anything. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Also looking for a motion from HR to accept the contract. Motion by Tierney, second by Gisselman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously.
Okay, good deal. HR, do you want to adjourn
Yeah.
first?
Motion to adjourn. Motion by Tierney, second by Martins. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. And then HR will adjourn. So a motion from Hinkie, second from McElhaney. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.